Hi, this is Sarah, the Stitchin mommy, and it's Monday, July 13th, and this might be a long one, so buckle up. This might be my stitching update for this week and plans for the next 2 weeks because I won't be able to come back and film next week, so got a lot to show. First off, I had a couple random things. My daughter made some of these little felt treats and wanted me to share them with you. She made a donut that was like half her, half me. This one was mostly her. I put the eyes on and the mouth and started and ended the threads, and she did all the rest of the stitching. So this is the little Pop-Tart toaster pastry. And then she made the donut and she lost it already, so I can't show her that, but hopefully she can find it eventually. And I had a question on Facebook this morning to talk about how I switch out my monthly projects in frames. So I thought I would share those real quick. This is the first one I decided to do that way. These are the Snowflower Diaries monthly pieces, and these are still free on her blog if anybody wants to get them. This is a 5x7 frame, a 3.5 by 5 inch opening on the mat, which I bought separately. And probably at Hobby Lobby, these things, I think. Because the mat did not originally come with a frame, I needed to take the glass out. But I'm okay with that because I'm switching them out every month, so it's not gonna get too dusty. These are stitched 1/1 on 28 count. So if you were stitching them over 2 or on Ada or something larger, you'd have to come up with your own dimensions. But this is 1/1 on 28 count, fits in this, inch sizes. 5x7 frame, 3.5 by 5 inch mat. And the back is really easy. I undo it like that. And I just have it in here like a picture and take it out, put it back in, and it's, and because this one doesn't have a mat, I can, line it up even from the front sometimes. So that's super easy. I just lay it in there and it's ready to go. So that's that one. And my other ones were the Little House Needleworks months. These are not the cottages of the month. I don't know how the size compares with these ones versus those ones. I believe the question I asked referred to the cottages of the month. So I don't know how big those are. This is again 1/1 on 28 count. So you'd have to come up with your own dimensions if you had a larger stitch count or larger size X's. This one still has the glass in it because it came with the mat. This was at Michael's, 5x5 inch frame, 4x4 inch mat. And I do the same thing. I have it serged, or actually I had it cut a different size than 5x5 because I didn't know how I would be finishing them. So I cut them down after the fact, and now the serging is like half cut off. But I have it in there the same way, where I just take out this one's a little bit more loosey-goosey in the frame, but it's just in there like a picture. And I can lay it down just like a picture. And this one I like to line up, eyeball it a little bit because the glass even is cut too small and kind of moves around. So this one is not as nice as the other one as far as quality of the frame, but it still works. So there's that one. And yeah, it does look, it looks like the mat and glass is crooked in there, but that's okay. I can fix it later. That's a little better. So I was thinking of doing this with the Prim Stitch Club by the Fat Quarter Shop that I just started this week. And then as I watched one of their Flosstubes, and Kimberly said that the themes of the Prim Stitch Club are based on the Prim quilt along that they're doing. So I looked at the quilt because they have that all shown already. And none of it looks particularly seasonal. The one that just released, I can show you. It shipped on last Sunday, and it arrived this week. This is the first one. And this one has a July feel for, Americans, because there's the flag there, the bees. So it looks very July to me. So that's why I thought, well, maybe all of them will be kind of appropriate for the month they're in. But based on the quilt, they're not necessarily like the wintry ones don't look all that wintry. It all has kind of a more summery, springy feel to it, which is fine. So the thing, when I noticed that, I was thinking, well, I may not necessarily want to switch them out monthly then if they're not necessarily going to go with that month. So what I thought is, again, I'm doing these over one, so they will be small. And seeing the quilt made me think maybe I should make a little quilt. I can put some strips in between the blocks and around the edges and make a doll quilt for my daughter. And I think that would be really cute. So that's kind of my plan at this point. So we'll see. I never bought the frame for it, so it's not any loss. Can still reserve judgment on whether or not I do that, but that's kind of my thought at this point. This is my start on the Prim Stitch Club. And this is 25 count Prim vintage cloth that came with that is sold to go with the kit, along with the Ari floss that was also recommended. And they have DMC recommendations listed as well. But this is as far as I got. It's kind of a dark, rustic looking fabric. So it doesn't pop the same way this one does. This one looks like a lighter fabric, but I do like it, and it is a very soft fabric. I have these trimmed to 5x5 in case I put them in a frame like that, but I may or may not do it that way anymore. And my first specialty stitch play was this woven stitch that's in here. I don't know how well you can see that, but I'll get a picture up on Instagram. Hopefully you should be able to show that a little bit better. But it came, like, it's charted to do like a checkerboard with just X's, 2 different colors of floss. So I decided to do I was originally going to literally weave it with my needle, and it was too bulky. Have one color going one way, one color going the other way, and it wasn't working. So I ripped it out and Googled some sort of woven stitch, and I found this needlepoint stitch that it has the illusion of being woven, and I did them in opposite directions with the colors in different directions just for kicks and giggles. That's the start of the bee right there, because it was the same color as one of those. So my next color on my needle is the stem green, and then I'll probably head up and do this next. And I have an idea to do like some sort of specialty stitch in the center here with this pink. And I'm also thinking of doing satin stitches on the beehive. So those are 3 different specialty stitches I'm going to add to this one just for fun. Because I thought, why not? That sounds like something that would be fun. I switched over to this project bag because it's got a fat bottom. This is one of the gingham stitchable bags that Fat Quarter Shop sells. Because I had all my travel stitching in my Bloomtopia bag, but it's flat. And so since this has the Ari floss box, I figured I needed something a little fatter. So I've had this in here. I've had the Prim Stitch. The Prim Stitch Club has been in here waiting for the patterns. But then I decided to move my temperature tree over into this bag as well, so that all my travel stitching is together, because I finished Bloomtopia. So I will show you that in a second. Actually, maybe I'll show you that first, because it's all Fat Quarter Shop stuff. So, Bloomtopia, part 12 comes out on the 15th, which isn't for a couple days, but since everybody's seen it on the website, you've seen the border, everybody knows the border is the last thing to come out, so I'm going to go ahead and show you now. And here is my finish. So I really like how this turned out. It's very colorful, very small, smaller than my head. This is also 28 count, 1/1. This is Ivory Lugana. It's warmer than it's showing there. But I think it turned out really nice. And all the colors complement each other. It does definitely have a quilty feel to it with each of the parts and the illusion of the quilty shapes. So I thought that turned out really cute. I have an idea of what I want to do with this. I may gift it to somebody who has expressed the joy over it repeatedly. So I won't say who, but I think I will be gifting that one at some point in the future. So that one's done now. So now I can focus all my extra energy on the Prim Stitch Club one. And I have all month this arrived like Thursday, maybe, something like that, which would have been like the 9th, probably the 8th or the 9th. So presumably around the 8th or the 9th every month is when I'll get a new one. So I have until August 8th or 9th to get the next one and get this one done, because I'd like to keep up on it. And it is motivating to keep up on it when I'm playing with specialty stitches, because that for me is fun. So if I want to keep stitching away to get more progress on the specialty stitch sections, then I'll be motivated to work on it. So that's fun. Okay, so now my temperature tree. I am caught up on this still. I was able to finish out some branches, not all of them. But here's where it is now with compared to last time. And I put in one more strand of brown and finished July's branch, and then finished out the string on the beginning of August, and got all the leaves put in for the first few days here in July. So like I thought, it's going to be warm. This leaf is 101, and it was either that or hotter yesterday, and probably the same today, but it's supposed to cool down just a touch the next couple days and then go back up into the 90s or so. So it'll be warm for a little while. Summer's finally here. So I do like going all the way up to the hot temperatures on the patterns, which goes in I'm doing the hot symbol key. I'm doing the hot symbol key, which the highest color is 110 or above. And I like getting to those colors in stitching. I don't like living through them. Last year we didn't get to them, so I'm not sure what this year holds or not. It's been a pretty mild year, so I'm thinking we may not get there this year either, but you never know. All right, so I think that's all my random stitching. Oh no, well, yeah, I'll get to that. So I do have a little bit of haul, stash enhancement. I have another piece of flare fabric that I got from Stitchery Express. It was part of the same order, but they sent it separately. This one is called Mushroom Slushy, and it's a 32 count Lugana, probably. And this is what this one looks like. There's a big empty, like not empty, but it's very light right there, and very more heavily modeled down here. So I'm thinking I might use it this way, because I think there's more heavy stitching in the piece down here that I intended this for, that will cover up the less interesting bits. But it's kind of a fun, like, tan with brown and yellow, touch of green little splotches. And this one is for my Halloween Fairy by Nora Corbett that I got on Hirschner's as a digital download. So I thought this would go pretty well with that. It's a nice tan with like browns and green hues to it. So I thought, I mean, the top that's lighter could go well behind the moon, but I don't want to cover up all the pretty splotching behind all of this. So I was thinking to have more of the splotching down here and splotching up here. Technically, it seems like it might work to have the splotching down here and be like ground, and the top be more sky light. So if somebody has a, opinion, share it with me, please. But I do like the splotching a lot, so I don't necessarily want to cover it up. But I'm not sure if the moon will look good on the splotching or not. So I could do it this way. That's not working. And have the splotchy parts more on the ground area. I could do it this way and cover up more of the splotchy bits and have cover up more of the light bits and have the splotchy bits towards the top. And I'll have to check too and see how big this is, because I got the medium piece of this, but it's possible that it's not super big and I could just put it only on the splotchy part and just save this for something else. So I'll have to measure and double check exactly what size I have to work with there. But that's what I got. Happy with that. There it is. The bag it came in. All right, so because I won't be able to film next week, I'm going to show you what I've worked on this week, and then I'm going to show you what I plan to work on for the next 2 weeks, which, because I'm doing things daily, is going to be a lot. So let's start with the Advent animals that I'm working on for Jolly July. I'll put a picture in of the little flip frame thing that I found on Amazon that I'm hoping to get. I don't have it yet, so hopefully all of you don't buy it before I get to it. But that's what I'm planning to do, planning to put these on. I'm planning to mount these on cardstock, just sewing around them and fraying the edges, and then hole punching the cardstock and putting them on this little flip frame for the Advent calendar season. So let's get back to, I started with, this week I worked on, I'm doing one every day. I'm starting, these Brooks Books Advent Animals are free by, on Brooks Books website, Brooks Books Publishing. This is the one I'll be starting today for number 13. I'm picking a color towards the top of the design and completing that color throughout the whole design, and trying to pick one that's more of a medium amount of stitches, not a whole lot, and hopefully not one that's too little. There's a couple in here that didn't have a whole lot of choice. It was either a little bit of stitches or a lot of stitches. So, and I opted to skew on the side of a little bit because I have other things I'm doing with the Full Coverage Fanatics bingo. So starting on the 6th, let's go back. Let's see. Trying to see how to keep these in order. Yeah, that was Hetty Hedgehog. Okay, so starting on the 6th, I worked on Cashmere Camel. These are all on 18 count Ida. So this is the present on her back and her ears. So that one was the least amount of stitching I've done so far. But it was either that or a color that was even less used or a lot used, like in her little blanket or one of her skin colors, fur colors. So that one I didn't get a whole lot of anything showing, but it still works. And then Pierre Penguin. I went ahead and kept him as is. I'll just stitch him the way he is. He's pretty cute. So I did his red hat, bow, and the cherries in the martini glasses. So that's the start on him. Pearly Pig. She got a nice proper start. I went ahead with the 8. All the numbers are actually kind of pinky colored and then striped like a candy cane. They're not white underneath there. It's more of a pink. So the same color in her ears and face and legs was also in the 8. So that one looks kind of cool. And number 9 was Kenny Kangaroo. Not too much on this one either, but again, same problem with the camel. It was either it wasn't near the top or it had too few or too many stitches. So I did a little bit in his hat and then his collar. So that's kind of fun. He's got a big old 70s collar on his Hawaiian shirt there. I think he's standing on sand too instead of snow like everybody else. Here's Sheila Sheep. Got her start of her hat and the little thing she's knitting and her ball of yarn. So that's pretty cute. All of these are very fun. This one looks fun. This is Fitzwilliam Frog. So I did the black on him with his top hat and his whiskers. And this, I believe, is his mouth because he's singing. Ooh. So that's fun. Singing some Christmas carols. And the last one I worked on yesterday, Sophie Squirrel. So I did the red, one of the reds in her antlers, and then her Christmas colored acorn that she's got there. So those are really cute. I'm enjoying these, pulling one out every day and getting just one color finished. It's a nice goal to have color completion, because even though I'm barely starting them, at least I have that sense of accomplishment that I finished a color. So it's a nice happy medium to be able to get these done. So as I showed you, I'll be working on all the rest of them before I see you next. Colin Cardinal, Cassie Cow, Rascal Raccoon, it's backwards for me, Gigi Giraffe, Hamilton Horse, Ugly Sweater Contest, and Remy Rabbit, it's a cute one, Larry Lion, Odette Owl, Ethan Elephant, Ping Panda, Festival of Lights. I forget what, it's a particular holiday there. I forget what, Scandinavia? Maybe. Alistair Alligator, Deborah Donkey, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So, and then that goes back to Katie Kitty. So again, these will be started, and then I'm keeping them as one whip on my whip list. So for Arbitrary August, when I was sorting things by size, this one is actually in like the medium category, I think, because I combined the stitch count of all 25 of them because I'm keeping them as one project, not 25 small projects. So they will be all together in travel stitching that I will, after this, will work on here and there as I can. And if the kids go back to school in the fall, where it's looking likely or probable or possible that they may go back at least part-time in the fall, starting in August actually, I may have more travel time again to work on things like that, off and on. So that'll be fun. All right, so this stuff is done. So all that's left now is my full coverage. So I am working on Full Coverage Fanatics Bingo, which is, Full Coverage Fanatics is a Facebook group for people who love full coverage, people who are fanatical about full coverage. In July, they're doing a bingo, and mine is, oh, I was gonna update this. I'm doing mine to go for a blackout. And I'm not doing the counting version, so I'm not trying to get 1,000 stitches on everything. I'm trying to get some attention on everything. But I have a project for every prompt, so I figured, why not maximize the reality that I have 21 full coverage projects. I actually currently have 20. I will be starting one tomorrow. I didn't want to start it today because I wanted to make sure I give it some time. And Mondays I don't usually have a ton of time because of editing and stuff kind of takes away my time. But Mini Bear Time Stories I will be starting tomorrow. This was for the prompt Dragons because he's reading to 2 little dragons. And this will be for my son. I had somebody comment for my monthly pieces I stitch on monthly. I have 2 pieces for a piece for each of my sons and a piece for my husband that are ongoing. I also have a piece for my niece and a piece for my mom and a piece for my aunt. And somebody asked, well, what about your daughter? What are you stitching for her? I used to have her in the rotation. I made her the Snow Queen by Shannon Christine Designs. And previously to that, I made her the You Make My Heart Melt little freebie penguin design from Heaven and Earth Designs. So she's got 2 cross stitches on her wall already from me. One is full coverage, one is not. So I figured when I finished the Snow Queen, I put in my aunt's piece, I believe, the Quick Stitch Iris, to fill that place because I want to get that done. So it's kind of in a revolving thing of the things I want to get done. So they're family pieces, but I'm not currently working on something specifically for my daughter because she's already been done. And chances are I will get to more things for her because she loves to see everything I'm working on. Her taste and my taste are very similar. So, but I did not have full coverage projects for my sons in the works. And so when 2 prompts on the bingo sheet could not be filled by things I already had, I figured, well, that's a good opportunity. Start something for each of my sons that's full coverage and they fit the prompts. So then they'll each have a full coverage piece and a non-full coverage piece in the end. So at the very least, they all have a birth sampler that I did as well when they were little. So let's get started. There's a lot of stuff over here, a lot of rolls. Oh yeah, somebody asked last time. I haven't been responding to comments because I'm just really slow and overwhelmed by everybody being home all the time. So I really want to get back to that. But somebody did ask where I keep all the rolls of projects that I have. I used to have a random cobbled together with packing tape, just cardboard box setup that I believe I filmed in my planning and organization video that I have a few years back on my channel. You can go find that. Recently though, in the past 6 months, I can't remember exactly, I bought a blueprint organizer, and I can put a picture in here of what mine looks like. It was just a cardboard, came flat, and you popped it open and put it all together. Love it. It is so perfect because I keep almost everything in rolls, so then I can have them in there. Tall things go in the back, short things in the front, and it's very nice. I can fit 4 or 5 rolls in each little cubby, and it's perfect. So that's what I'm doing right now. All right, so what did I work on this week for Full Coverage Fanatics Bingo? Oh, and I was able to fit in things for Enchanted Stitching Challenges this week, only they're not all the projects that I have normal projects. Like one of them was stitch on something that you're racing to finish, and I'll be putting in my customer piece for that because I'm racing to finish that. And one that has a food that I want to preserve. I was thinking of using my Prim Stitch Club piece for that because it has the the bee scap there. I want to preserve some honey because none of the pieces I'm planning to work on today have food in them. I think Stitching Shelf might have some food, but it's not very obvious. I mean, I guess I could say, like there's some pumpkins here. I could preserve some canned pumpkin to make pies. So that's a possibility. I wasn't planning to work on that section though. So I don't know. I was thinking I'll just use my other one for that and not worry about it. There were a couple other ones. Oh yeah, one was one that you're having trouble wrapping your head around. The chance to make it. Something with the project is you're having trouble understanding or figuring out or whatever, and I chose the love letter because I'm not able to get it in Pattern Keeper. This file, I bought the updated file for it, and it won't work. And I've emailed Golden Kite, and they emailed Pattern Keeper, but I haven't heard anything more what has been resolved. So I'm still working on it on paper, and I'm kind of struggling to figure out how to move forward with that one. So I'll work on it for the day. I have it slotted this week, but I really want Pattern Keeper. So that one, I'm kind of having trouble wrapping my head around it. And then the other one was, what is something that represents like an expensive project, either expensive to kit up or expensive subject matter, like they're wearing fancy dresses, like a Mirabilia. And for that one, I chose Stitching Shelf, which you just saw the picture of, but I'll show you again because I'll show you where I'm at with it now. This one I chose for the expensive one because it is the Max Colors version. So it has 238 colors. So if you were to kit this up from scratch, it'd be pretty expensive. I'm just using my master set of DNC, so I didn't necessarily buy all those right away, but technically it is expensive to kit up. And it requires a yard of fabric. So that's expensive too. So here is my starting Oh no. I think I'm starting on my plans already. That's not right. Oh. Let's rein it in. Let's rein it in, shall we? Back up. Back up. La Soiree is the first thing I worked on. I'm all over the place, guys. So La Soiree is the first thing I worked on. And I did this. This was the one that met a bunch of prompts. It met the full coverage fanatics around the world for yellow, which the love letter will also, because there's, the love letter has, she has a yellow hat, which is near where I'm working anyway, so I can work on that. So, La Soiree, it also worked for an Enchanted Stitching Challenge, and it worked for Full Coverage Fanatics Bingo. I think the Enchanted Stitching Challenge was shoes, and Bingo was, I already told you last week, oh, something that starts with a J-U-L or Y, so it started with an L. So here's where I got to this week. Compared to last week. So I pretty much just picked maybe one or two colors, and one color I just went up and down all the columns until the string ran out, and there was a long string, so it took a long time, but eventually I used it up because there was a lot in this section here. This right here is like paneling, a twisty cable paneling. This is wallpaper and paneling, so I'll find that spot on. So this is a golden kite. So I'm right here doing this paneling, and I did actually cut the top off and one over here because I don't really care about this stuff. I do like this bench, but I don't like any of this, and I don't need that much background. So I'm actually right here, and I think her hair is in the next page over. I'm still on page 1, my new page 1. So that's where I'm at, and that's how much I did. I got 345 half stitches, so pretty happy with that. This is on 24 count Congress cloth, and just to be complete, not that I have time for that this time, but here's my back. 2/1 half stitches on 24 count Congress cloth, and it's still very large. Okay, so then I worked on Stitcher's Retreat, which is always fun. This one worked for, let me keep this out, something beginning with an S or a T. It starts with an S and ends in a T. This one I'm cropping a lot as well, so I'm just doing the middle chunk there of the ladies, and I'm doing it extreme cross country. So I chose a color to help combine the areas I've already stitched. So this is 28 count Rose Monaco, 2/1 half stitches. Comes all the way up here, the background does. But I had previously stitched the girls, and I wanted to do something that connected them, so I chose this line on the wall underneath the lamp that kind of went in between them, and chose one color in that and just did one color and then like 3 strands of that color, and it matches up. Woohoo! So that'll be nice to have more of a structure, an anchor in place. And I do think I want to work on the lamp more next, or one of their faces. I think I want to maybe put some more color in her face too, and hair. That'd be fun. So there, that's where that one ended up. 407 stitches, half stitches on that one. And then I worked on the Young Gardener, which I used for geometric shapes because the watering can had fairly geometric shapes, an oval and a cylinder. And this is on 40 count, 1/1 half stitches. There we go. So it's tiny. And I had some black on my needle, so I went ahead and worked the black in, and then went to some browns and tans tried to stay focused on the top row just to try to get that filled in some more. So here's where it's at compared to last time. And I'm pretty happy with that. That was 322 half stitches. That's pretty nice. So all of these I was able, this one also was for a Enchanted Stitching prompt, as was the Stitcher's Retreat. So it was nice to be able to get at least 200 half stitches in all of those to meet the challenge prompts. The next one was April Fairy, which I didn't get as much work on, but I really enjoyed what I did do. This is Quick Stitch April Fairy. This one was for fairies, the prompt fairies for the bingo. And I finished my diagonal. It took a lot longer to stitch because there's a lot of color changes down there, and I'm doing this more of a stitch by stitch method. I do have a video up online of how I do this one, and I decided to keep doing it this way even though I have Pattern Keeper. It is still a fun way to do it once in a while, but it does go slower. So I only got 104 stitches total on this one, and I actually did 20 stitches of that 104. 20 of them were on day 2 because I really wanted to finish this diagonal, and I didn't quite get there on the first day. But I think I probably had other things going on that kept me from stitching too. So I'm really happy with that. I'm really enjoying that and want to get back to it. So this is 1/1 full crosses on 28 count rows Monaco. I do really like this one. Different way of stitching, not as speedy, but really pretty and soothing in its own way. So the next one I worked on for 2 days, but I was kind of either not in the mood to work on it or not in the mood to stitch in general. Played a lot of phone games instead. But I did work on this one for 2 days for 2 different prompts. I worked on it one day for birds and one day for insects because it has bees as well. This is Mini Bird Song, which is a Hade. And I am on page 2. I had completed page 1 previous to this. This is also 1/1 half stitches on 40 count. So here's where I'm at now. I had the light blue on my needle already, so I finished that up here in and around the leaves, and then I finished out my string up here. So that gave me a good amount of numbers, and then I just picked up mostly parked threads. I may have picked up 1 or 2 that were not parked, but down here and throughout here I filled those in. And some of them I did park again because I don't want to count too far on this because it's easy to miscount on such tiny fabric. So for a long distance, like in these areas within shorter ranges, it's not that difficult to count, at least for me. But I don't want to get too far away and have it messed up because frogging on this is not fun. And I was wrong. I think this column is still all blue, but I think the bird starts in this column, kind of near where this one's parked. The beak of the first bird. So, and then the second bird, I think that's starting the second bird that's down below. So that's fun. So I did enjoy that when I got it out, but I was just kind of not in the mood to stitch that much. So I got 258 half stitches on that first day, partly because of finishing out the sky, and that goes pretty fast to add up stitches. And then 163 half stitches on the next day, which is the lowest half stitch amount I had on any of these. I was kind of hoping, because I had 2 days to work on this, that I could get the larger Enchanted Stitching challenge on this one, because I used this for Enchanted Stitching also, which would be 500 half stitches, but I think I got like 400 and I don't even know, 450, 420, something, not there. But that's okay, because I had originally, my goal was to get the medium challenge of all of those, and I met that, so that's good enough. The next day I worked on the flower garden, yesterday. This is the last one I worked on. Then I can go back to plans. Jumping the gun earlier, sorry. So this is the Flower Garden Heaven and Earth Designs version. This is my largest whip. Empress Eugenie, which I worked on the last time, technically is my largest, but since I cropped it, this one is now my largest. Because once I cropped that one, it shrunk enough. That original pattern is the largest, but I'm not doing the original one as charted. So this is also 128 count Rose Monaco. This is 2/1 half stitches. And here I am now. I had a color on my needle that was this dark green. So I finished that out. There's a good amount of that. And then I just picked up more parked threads off the top and worked them in. Some of them came all the way down here. Some of them I parked. Some of them I finished and put away because they weren't anywhere close by. But I got a good amount stitched. It's 278 half stitches on that one. So that's pretty nice. It's getting there. On these ones that have a lot of confetti, it kind of depends on if I want to park them. It kind of depends on how much of that color is nearby. So this one and Birdsong, I think was the first time, and La Soiree, I think were all the first time I'd use Pattern Keeper while stitching on those particular patterns. So I had to kind of decide what I wanted to do. And so it is easier to just do cross country in Pattern Keeper than to park, but because of the nature of some of the patterns, sometimes I still might park. Especially if in those confetti bits, it's nice to do maybe a smaller section and then park, or could be a bigger section than I might normally do when using a paper pattern, but not until the string runs out. It just kind of depends on my mood too. If I feel like just stitching on with that color, or if I feel like seeing some section completed. And partly this time too, it had to do with the fact I only had one day to work on things. So I want to be able to show in the picture, before and after pictures for the challenges, that something happened. So I want to try to like work in enough of the parked threads on the top that you can see, yes, I stitched something, because otherwise things might be covered completely by parked threads and then I can't prove that I did anything. So that's partly the problem too. Okay, now we can go on to plans. So today, presumably, I will work on the stitching shelf. Max colors. So this will work for the expensive prompt and enchanted stitching, and it will also work for books for bingo. And that's over here because I already got it out. Here's my starting point, and you just saw this a couple weekends ago for the Midsummer Nights weekend. I don't know if you can see all of that. Hopefully. And I figured, because it's only one day and I didn't necessarily get to a good stopping point on this, I'll put it down here so you can see. This is a summer band, and I'll work on those books there in the middle. Do some more on the blue and green book that I started during the Midsummer Nights challenge, and that'll be a nice way to get some good stitches in for this challenge. So I'll do that. You can have a before and after pic, up and down like that one. If I can stick with focusing in on one shelf at a time while I work on this, then maybe it'll be easier to put the before and after pictures, because there's no way I can fit them both on the screen at the same time if you have to see the whole thing. Let me get this all rolled up. All right, so next up, I have my new start, Bear Time Stories. So that's the one I showed you that I picked out for my younger son. He likes teddy bears and he likes dragons. These dragons are eating cookies and there's candy, so I could maybe do this one for the things I'd like to preserve. I'd like to freeze the cookies so I can eat them again later. So I could do this one. That might make more sense because in the Prim Stitch Club, it's a bee skep. It's not actually honeycomb, so you don't actually see the food. So maybe I'll do this one instead. I didn't notice that before. There's a cookie right there. And there's some candy down here, but I freeze my cookies. I make a whole batch of chocolate chip cookies and freeze them, and then keep out 2 or 3 at a time so they always taste fresh. So that's mini bear time stories. I haven't prepped my fabric yet, but I'm planning to do that on 40 count 1/1/2 stitches as well. My son likes the look of the small stuff. I showed him Bird Song recently and how that looked, and he was like, oh, wow. So I think he'll enjoy that. So I've got that one to go on the 14th, potentially. If I feel like a different day is better, these can move around. The next one is the love letter, which I showed you already, but I'll show you again. This is the one that's not in Pattern Keeper yet, so I'm a little sad about that, but I'll still work on it. And I have like 3 pages done. Up here, I think I'm on page 4. So this one is large as well. It's on 25 count. Here it is. 2/1/2 stitches. Mostly background is completed. So here is where I'm at now. And I have some parking on this one, but I think I would like to, last time I worked on this, I was trying to get a lot of stitches at once, maybe for a challenge, so I did a lot of background. But now I think the background is mostly done, and a lot of this is confetti, where there's one stitch here, 1 stitch there, all along this fluffy edge, which looks super cool. It's the edge of her feather on her hat. So it looks really cool, really realistic. But I don't know. I think instead, because it's also for the yellow prompt in Full Coverage Fanatics Around the World, I might take these yellow hat pieces and work on the yellow instead. So we'll see. So there's that. Haven't worked on this one in a really long time. I was really hoping this could be in Pattern Keeper, because especially with this yellow hat, it's right, on a page break. And if I had Pattern Keeper, it would be easy to stitch all around here on the hat. Some on this top row, some on the bottom row. But when it's pages, it's not as easy. So on paper, because then you have to compare columns and rows and oh well, it is what it is. So I'll continue to work on this on paper until at least for this day, unless they get back to me before then, and I'll probably try it again just in case something happened and it works now, but I'm not holding my breath. So there's that one. That one I was working on for bingo for, what is this one called? A love letter for buildings. It's a little bit of a stretch, but there's buildings back here. There's, this one looks like a building. There's some steps up to another building, so I figured that would work for that one. So that one's for buildings. And then Three Sisters, you also saw somewhat recently. I didn't work on this that long ago. Here's this one. This is for human or human-like figures for bingo. And this is on 18 count, so it's enormous. And I don't know, with one day, I don't know if I want to get a whole color. Sometimes when I work on this, I like to work up here, and sometimes I like to pick a color and do a whole bunch in her face. But it's just one day. I might not get a whole color finished. Let's put this here on the side for before and after. So I might actually work up here and get some of those parked threads worked in. That actually might be kind of fun. It's kind of what I'm in the mood for. So here's this, just in case I work on the girl, but if I work on up here, I'll do a closer before and after for you. So I'll have both available. This is 2/1 on 18 count. This is one of those pieces from the craft store that's 30 by 36, I think. I'm using the whole thing. And I'm storing this in an old map tube that I bought, a paper map to go on my wall to put pins in for my Etsy sales. All right, Princess de Broglie is next. I did that one for Project with More Than 80 Colors. which a lot of things count for this one, but this particular pattern doesn't count for a whole lot of things. So it ended up fitting into this one. This is the one I recently restarted. I had been doing this also on 18 count, but the Pattern Keeper version of the pattern was significantly different than the one I had, and I couldn't mesh previous stitching with current stitching, and I kind of wanted it smaller anyways. I went ahead and cropped the top off, which is now, the top pages were now in a different spot anyways, so I was able to crop it without messing with her head. And I cropped, I think, one column as well. Now I'm doing it 2/1 half stitches on 28 count mushroom Lugana. So I'll do an up and down one on this one because it's mostly horizontal. This is where I'm at now. This is my awesome restart that I got, I think, almost all the way to the bottom, to the other side. So I'm not sure what I'll do, if I'll do more background or if I'll work in her. I might work some more in her just so she looks a little better. So that's my Princess de Broglie, one day on her. And then I have a project I'm going to work for 2 days in a row on Saturday and Sunday, because it fits for 2 different themes. Oh yeah, this one I lost my needle. The last time I was filming a Flosstube, I lost my needle and I didn't find it. I'm sitting on my husband's side of the bed, and so far he hasn't found it either, so that's good at least. I don't know where it ended up. What's the next one? Norwegian Ship, Under Sail. This one is a Golden Kite. This is the small version. My husband likes these kind of ships, so I thought I'd make him one of these. And is this it? I'll do this one for 2 prompts in bingo, so I'm working on it for 2 days. The beach/ocean, because it's clearly in the ocean. And the other one is a mode of transportation, car, truck, or boat. And this is also a mode of transportation. So here's this one, and I may have worked on this in Pattern Keeper once before. I'm not sure. I'll have to see. But there's my start on that one. I have several columns done, but not quite page 1 finished. So it doesn't look like I would have done a whole lot in Pattern Keeper yet, so we'll see what it looks like after. 2 days on this one, so that'll be nice. This is like the same fabric as the Love Letter, 25 count linen, 2/1 half stitches. So it's a little bit loosey-goosey of a fabric, but it works. I like other fabrics better than this stuff. I don't even know, I bought it from a discount seller, so I don't even know exactly what type of linen it is. It's not, might be even weave, but it kind of, I don't know, it's just weird. I think it was labeled as linen, but I need to fix that. There we go. So that's all for this week, and then next week I'll continue to tell you what I'm working on because I won't be able to film. So my next one I'll work on is Quick Stitch Iris, which you've seen lots because it's my aunt's piece. So it comes out once a month most of the time. Where is it? There it is. Here's Quick Stitch Iris. And this one will be for flowers because it's pretty much all that's on this one. So I wanted to make sure this one fits something. Here's my starting point on that. This is nearing the bottom. This is hit the edge. So that's exciting. And now that all my parked threads are finished, I'm planning to come up here and start filling in from the top down. I may also, there's a couple places where the color stopped abruptly, here and like here, because I work in rows. So I could also pick up some of those colors because there's larger chunks of those colors in there and get those filled in a more natural way as well. So that's possible. So that's got 1 day for flowers. Then I'll be working on Knitting Woman. We'll have 1 day for a dog or a cat because she's got a cat next to her right here. So this is one you do see regularly also. Did I tell you? Quick Stitch Iris is 25 count linen. I believe the same stuff I'm doing the other one on, only it's 1/1 full crosses. This is 22 count Ada 2/1 half stitches. And I do have a little bit down here, almost to the bottom. I think the bottom's right here. So this is my start on that one for one day. And I've been trying to fill in from the top down, but there's a bunch of confetti here. So sometimes I'll pick one and it ends up all over. So I don't know exactly where I'll be working this time. So there's a start on that one. And the cat starts like right there maybe, but I don't know that I want to start working on the cat until I get more of this filled in. So I'll probably just keep working, like picking colors from up here. I just don't know where they're going to end up because I am doing this cross country at this point, where I pick a color and then finish out the string in the rest of the design. Princess of the Sea is next, which is another one I'm really enjoying right now. And that one will get 2 days for 2 different prompts. This one will be for mermaids, as well as fish or things that live in the sea, because mermaids live in the sea. And she's surrounded by a bunch of sea creatures. So she's a mermaid, so she fits the prompt for mermaids, and she also lives in the sea, but she's also got starfishes and shellfish and things around her that are the actual creatures that live in the sea also. So it works for both of those. And I've got a good amount. I mean, I've got started on the sky, and I've also got started on her. So I could work in either place depending on what I feel like doing. Obviously working in the sky is going to get me color, like stitch count will rack up a little bit faster, but that doesn't matter too much. The finished product is a lot darker than this one because this is printed in toner save mode. Hopefully, my kids are out now and they stopped watching their show, so if you can hear stuff, I'm sorry. So this is my start. Dove Gray Monaco 2/1 half stitches. And I may put more in her, or I may just stick and work more in the sky. So we'll have to wait and see what I'm in the mood for it. So I'll have 2 days. So she should get some good amount of attention. And then my last project, my last full coverage whip is The Nativity by Donna Gelsinger. And this one is going to get 2 days also. And I purposely put this one at the end because it'll fall on the 24th and the 25th, which line up nicely with Christmas in July, Christmas Eve, and Christmas dates. So that I figured was appropriate. And this one will work for holiday themed, Christmas, Halloween, etc. It also works for farm animals because there's these 3 sheep here. So this one will get 2 days as well. And here's my start. Not my start, my starting point. And last time I worked on this, I was working on filling in all my parked threads similar to Quick Stitch Iris. All I have left is a few really long ones. I guess this one right here is shorter, that are here in his hat. But I found the hat ones sometimes ended up going all the way down his coat too. This is the first wise man. So that's really fun. So I'll probably work in those parked threads and then again come up here and fill in more along the top and kind of see where things take me. So that'll have 2 days. So hopefully I can get those parked threads done in 2 days and maybe a little bit more. So that's all of Full Coverage Fanatics Bingo. And if Enchanted Stitching challenges, they come out with their prompts the day before or the day of when the prompts start. So I won't know if I can fit anything in that next week, but I'll try. We'll see. I'll probably come back on the 27th. That's kind of my plan at this point, so Lord willing, that will happen. After Full Coverage Bingo wraps up for me on the 25th, I'll go to Joan Elliott July, which I've never been able to participate in before, but I have a new Joan Elliott that I started in May, and I'm also going to start a Joan Elliott. So I have a new start. I didn't bring it. Edwardian Lady. I could put a picture in. I'll be starting that. I brought my fabric, I just didn't bring the pattern. So I've already ironed and rolled this. This is Fairy Mist by, she may not be that ironed, but whatever. Fairy Mist by Stitchery Express Fabric Flare Fabric. Same place I got the mushroom slushy from for my Halloween fairy. So I will be stitching this on this, and I'll give it 3 days, 26th, 27th, and 28th. So likely, assuming I get time to stitch on Sunday, I will likely get this started before I see you again. So hopefully you'll get to see a little bit of a start on that. And then I thought it would be fun to work on my son's touchdown piece, which I forgot the pattern again, as my bonus, like stitch 1 string a day piece, like I'm doing my Advent animals, because those will be done then too. So I want to give him the last 6 days in July to do like 1 stitch a day on. So here's my starting point on that. So I have lots of back stitching to do, so I could do 1 string of back stitching. I have a lot of black and gray in the pants and shoes of both players. His pants, both of their shoes. He has some blue and orange stripes on his socks as well. Lots of back stitching on his shirt and head that still needs to be done. So this is my conversion of this chart to be John Elway and Charles Woodson, and of the Denver Broncos and Oakland Raiders. So it's close, but there's still a good amount left to do. I don't think I'll be able to finish it in the 6 days if I'm only working on it 1 string a day, but I'll at least make a nice little bit of progress. So potentially you will see a little bit of progress on both of those, and then I'll keep working on them after I film next. But that was a long one. Hopefully that's all I had to say, because that's a lot. Hope you enjoyed that. My month-long full coverage whip parade. Now I feel like working on all my non-full coverages, having another, like, working on a different non-full coverage every day. But I'm also excited to get back to normal stitching, which is, it won't be entirely normal in August, because I'll do arbitrary August, but I will go back to having 4 projects every week, which will be a little bit more normal and less switching. So that'll be nice. In the meantime, have a wonderful week, a wonderful 2 weeks, and enjoy what you're working on, and happy stitching. Bye.